What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Second Take. My name is Danny Zadlin. This is a weekly video podcast where I'm going to discuss some of the newest releases in both streaming and in theaters. Let's get started. Our first movie this week is Mickey 17, a sci-fi comedy from director Bong Joon-ho, the Academy Award-winning director of Parasite. Let's just get real. Mickey 17 is a bit of a miss. I'm going to tell you why. From the get-go, you don't know if this movie's a comedy, if this movie's a drama, if this movie's a sci-fi. It doesn't look like any of them. It's kind of funny at points. It's kind of sad at points. And there's some action at points. There's also a really cool world that's built within this movie. It looks amazing. I saw it in IMAX, and it should be seen on the biggest screen possible. The only issue is the movie kind of drags. The first 25 minutes of the movie are a narration explaining what exactly is happening, which works at points, until you realize about 25 to 30 minutes in that we haven't even seen the main title card. Then, halfway through the movie, we really shift when we get into Mark Ruffalo's character, who's supposed to play this Donald Trump, Elon Musk type of tyrant, and he really is like too much of a buffoon, whereas Toni Collette, who plays his counterpart, just kind of stands there and you don't really understand like what we're going for. The only other thing too about this movie is that there's also a romance between Naomi Ackie and Robert Pattinson, and I just didn't really understand why this movie was only a movie. There's so much going on here, there's so many themes and there's so many storylines that he wants to explore. It really actually would have worked better as a miniseries. However, we should continue to see movies like this in the theaters because at least the parts of this movie that work better than some of the bigger budget movies and IP-driven movies that don't really have much to say. So in all, I'm going to say Mickey 17 is a bit of a pass. However, if you are a true cinephile and you really do like those big screen formats, I would recommend seeing it in IMAX. All right, our next movie is Novocaine, starring Jack Quaid. Novocaine tells the story of Nathan Kane, a shy bank manager who has a rare condition in which he cannot feel pain. And when his bank is robbed and the love of his life is kidnapped, he takes it upon himself to use his special abilities to track her down and take care of the men responsible. Let me just say, I saw this trailer so many times, I was like, this movie looks so stupid. I gotta tell you, I was wrong. I really was. Because you know what? It was pretty fun. It was pretty fun for a movie as stupid as this could be. There is no world in which someone wouldn't have died about halfway through this movie. He takes such a beating from not only bullets, but crossbows and knives. At one point, he deep fries his hand. It's a brutal movie. But I'm going to tell you, it was fucking fun. And listen, if we're going to make movies this ridiculous, they all should start with the initial 20 minutes of the movie telling us more about the characters. The best thing that this movie does is it allows Jack Quaid to be Jack Quaid. He's charismatic, he's fun, he's lovable. And the first 20 minutes of the movie, you really feel for the guy. They have a message about self-love, about going for it, about not leaving yourself, about being vulnerable and going after the things you want. He's a shy guy, and because he's always not been able to feel pain, he's afraid to go for it. Initially, that's a great message to go ahead and spread. He meets this girl. She's a little bit different. She's kind of quirky and fun and a little bit mysterious. And next thing you know, this love really builds up between them. But after that happens, now we're really invested in the story. Now we're really believing that if this was to happen, it would make sense that this guy would go for it. Now, when the violence does really ramp up in this movie, they go for it. It reminded me of those Jason Statham movies, Crank, whereas just every single time he kept going and going and going, and he was just keeping himself stimulated through these adrenaline shots, but also the amount of pain he was taking on, you'd be like, there's no way someone wouldn't have died by now. This movie's biggest flaw is that its premise is only something you can really stretch so far. And they almost overstretch it to the point where it's ripped and tears apart. It's under 2 hours long, and it's fun. It's brutal, and the action sequences are different. But there were a couple parts where I'm like, all right, we can leave out this portion of it. We understand that he can't feel pain. I don't have to watch him be tortured for 10 minutes. And then there was a second plot twist at the end, which you can see coming from a mile away, where you're like, really? We're going to go here? That guy's close. All right, let's just do this. All right, we got it. All right, okay. They wrap it up pretty quickly, but at the same time, you could tell it was one of those premises where I'm like, I swear to God, do not make a sequel. Do not make a sequel. Do not make a sequel, because there is no believability and this could ever happen again. There was no believability that he's even alive at the end of it. And that's not even a spoiler because they tell you that in the trailer. All I'm saying is that Novocaine's a fun time at the movies. Also something that you don't have to run out to see. I'm going to be honest with you. You could probably wait for this to be on streaming, but it is a good time. And this week's final new release is Black Bag, the second film from director Steven Soderbergh and writer David Koepp, which is pretty impressive, I'm not going to lie. Let me just start with that. Both Steven Soderbergh and David Koepp have released 2 movies in the last 2 months. This and Presence. Both films are which 90 minutes or less and try different things. The biggest feature of Soderbergh's career is that he's also the director of photography, so his camera work is exquisite. At points this movie, I felt that this movie was like a low budget movie, and I was actually surprised to see that it was a $50 million budget, which I'm assuming probably was to go to most of the stars' salary, but it kind of felt like he edited it on his laptop, but you don't care because it just looks beautiful. The other cool thing about this movie is, again, like I said, it's 90 minutes long. This is something that a normal director, or maybe someone not of his skill level, would drag out to 2.5 hours and make you feel really bored by. From the get-go, you kind of learn a little bit more about these characters than you would in a traditional spy drama, because of the fact that they play it off as more of a couples drama and really dive into the relationships of all these coworkers in this spy agency, like an M5 in Mission Impossible. The cool thing about this movie too is that there's really no violence. It's all dialogue, which I can understand why people may see this as boring or maybe misled by the trailer, but it is literally all dialogue and tense moments. The tension that's built from some of the scenes of dialogue really add up to the ending twist of this whodunit aspect of the movie. I can't really even explain the plot of the movie without spoiling too much, but basically the premise is that Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett are both spies, and Michael Fassbender finds out that his wife, played by Cate Blanchett, has been compromised and is on this list of suspects of spies who've gone rogue. And he has to figure out the whole premise of her betrayal. That's all I can really say without spoiling the rest of the movie, but there's so many twists and turns that actually take you for a pretty decent wow factor. Oh, I didn't see that coming. That makes the movie fun. The other thing too is that, again, when you finish the movie, it's 90 minutes long. You're like, oh wow, this was only an hour and a half. I felt like I've been here for 2.5 hours because I've been so invested in the characters. I'm so invested in the story. I actually wouldn't mind if it kept going on. But I think we have to go back to a traditional way of making movies where we just make quick genre movies like this. Even the movie Presence that Soderbergh made last month, which was all POV shot and looked like it was shot on his iPhone, it was only 90 minutes, but you didn't really care if it wasn't that good because it gets to the point. You could just leave the movie theater going, okay, he tried something new. That was awesome. I can go home now. Sometimes I think we're just going for these really big, epic scale movies that don't work out because the ambition is there, but they're too rushed into production. Whereas if we make shorter movies that really get to the point, more people will see them, and they're a little bit easier to sit through. In the end, the writing, acting, cinematography, and overall directing of Black Bag makes it a must-see. In my opinion, is probably one of the best movies of this year so far. And again, I hope we continue to see more movies like this from Steven Soderbergh and David Koepp. And our final segment of today's show is called Fire Your Agent. This is where I'm going to discuss the career of an actor who I believe may be needing to go ahead and fire their agent. An actor who was once on the rise, but after a slew of bad projects, has initially kind of put the worry out to see where their career is going to go. This week's recipient is Ariana DeBose. If you're not aware who Ariana DeBose is, she won the Academy Award in 2022 for West Side Story and Best Supporting Actress, which was a musical directed by Steven Spielberg. Let me just ask you something, Ariana. Why did you follow up an Academy Award-winning role in a musical with 3 really bad action movies? What are you going for here? You sang, you danced, you won an Oscar. Why were you in 3 of the most violent movies this year? To explain, after Ariana DeBose won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, she went ahead and went aboard a Disney animated tale called Wish, which was a $200 million production that barely grossed $240 million at the box office. On paper, that should have worked, because she's singing, it's animated, it's Disney, probably because no one knows who she is and isn't really big enough of a star power to go ahead and lead this new movie. Then she went ahead and had a small role in Argylle, which I considered one of the worst movies of last year. And again, it was a small role, so I was like, okay, it's a cameo. You're working with Matthew Vaughn. You're kind of getting your feet wet, getting to the bigger studios like Universal, Apple. Okay, I'll forgive it. Then we went ahead and made a Amazon movie, which I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the title because it was that unforgettable. But it was, what was it called right here? House of Spoils is what it's called. House of Spoils. It's essentially The Bear on Amazon, but in a movie, and it's not good. So, okay, I don't know why you went for that one either. You then followed it up with ISS, a International Space Station sci-fi thriller set in outer space. Okay, low budget, whatever. Works for me. These are my biggest concerns. Most recently, you were in Kraven the Hunter, which, not really sure why you signed on to this one, as if I've never once said to myself, hey, there's that girl from West Side Story. Let's see her be the main female antagonist of a Marvel movie. You're not an action star. Why are you doing action movies? There was also points in Kraven the Hunter, which I don't even think you were in the same room as Aaron Taylor Johnson. I don't know what happened here. Who said this was a good idea? Who was like, hey, listen, we know that you love to sing and dance and you love musical theater. So let's just do these really violent superhero movies. Okay, maybe, I don't know. And then finally, you just starred in Love Hurts, which I consider the worst movie so far of 2025. Once again, you play the lead female antagonist in an extremely violent action movie. Why? What are you doing? Who is sending you these scripts saying, hey, listen, you know what's going to be great for you, Ariana? We're going to make you the main love interest of Ki Hye Kwan from The Goonies, and you're going to be the meanest person possible in this movie. And the whole movie, is just going to be people literally getting stabbed to death. Does that sounds like a great idea, right? Cool. Like, I'm not an agent, but I could tell you by reading those scripts or even seeing the ideas put on paper that you probably shouldn't have done them. So Ariana DeBose, I think it's time for you to fire your agent. And that's our show for you today. Until next time, my name's Danny Zaglin. Thanks for watching. I'll be at the movies.